I think everybody thought it was going to be close. It was really hard coming down to the wire to tell exactly who was going to have the momentum, because very often in these races, when they're close like this, it comes down to who has the most momentum. So I wouldn't say I'm surprised. In fact, I'm happy, of course, but I didn't expect to see it go on this long, to be this close. I think everyone expected it, but I was surprised to see it go on to be this close. Of course it is. It most definitely is. I mean, you see, I think the year that I won was the only year that there wasn't something significant happening, although there was a significant Democratic wave. In 1948, when the Democratic won this seat, you had the Truman landslide. So, when we see something like this happen, it generally follows a trend. This one was really something a little different because a Republican was unseated. The only time I know of that it happened was when Kernan unseated Conkling back in, I think it was 1864. So it doesn't happen very often here. I mean, there's only a handful of Democrats that have won. So it is a pretty significant thing to see an incumbent Republican unseated. It's difficult, and it's a huge area. It's a big district. I think we can see from the way Brindisi ran his race that it's possible. A lot of it happens with respect to trends. I think what we're seeing more and more of currently is less about the individual who is running and more about sort of the national scene. I know when I ran, it was more of, they put Nancy Pelosi out in front because she was the speaker when I was running. You saw that same effort made to do, with Brindisi. You saw Claudia Tenney using the president's popularity. So I think we're seeing more and more trends, national trends, affect our local elections. I mean, it's nothing new. When Roosevelt won his election, this district switched in the 30s from a Republican district to a Democratic district. Woodrow Wilson, it's only happened a few times. So it does happen, following trends. But this district is so red that it's a rarity when a Democrat can come forward and turn the table as Brindisi did. I'm not sure that in fact it didn't help it. It may have helped her. It may have put her further. It may have kept her closer to Brindisi by the fact that they did come here. So you just don't know about what her personal popularity was. I mean, did she get the kind of numbers that she had because of her personal popularity or because she was so tightly connected with President Trump? I mean, my sense is that a lot of her support came from being so tightly connected with President Trump. I think, when you look at some of the very rural areas that voted against Governor Cuomo and voted for President Trump, you see a very strong red area, and those are the areas that she did very well in. Oswego County, she won extraordinarily big. She won Madison County, she won Herkimer County, she won Tioga County. She won all of the rural counties, and she won them handily. And but for Broome County coming in as strongly as it did for Brindisi, we would be talking about something totally different today. It may have, I think. This district, although it tends to be red, it tends to be moderately red. And I think perhaps the fact that, Claudia Tenney was so far to the right, uncharacteristic of any of the predecessors, Richard Hanna, myself, Sherry Bowler, Alexander Perney, Don Mitchell, all of the predecessors always tended to be either moderate Republicans or moderate Democrats. So she was one of the, only extreme one way or the other, and she was an extreme conservative. And I think, that in a district like this, Anthony Brindisi showing himself to be a moderate Democrat, one who's independent, who's not afraid to stand up to the leadership, I think was the difference between the two candidates. Well, and I don't know what his decision is for committees. I think one of the things that the two houses can do some good things at this point with if President Trump decides to be a leader to both parties. And I think that we can see some real money brought back to the district for projects like transportation, for bridges, for railroads. So, I think those are the kind of things that Brindisi should be looking at, and I don't know if he's looking at the Transportation Committee. That's what I was on. That's what, Richard Hanna was on. That's what I think Claudia was on it also. But I think those are the kind of projects, those are the kind of committees that can help to bring projects back to the district. That would be certainly one thing that I would look for. I think one of the things that you may see in terms of what's going to happen going forward is you may see some very good budget bills coming out, because budget bills are the places that the two parties can come together. They're less about philosophical differences and more about priorities. So you get somebody like Anthony, who's a Democrat from the Northeast, who's concerned about road conditions, about railroads, because our winters take such a toll on our roads, on our bridges. And then, although he's a Democrat from the Northeast, he can really work with a Republican from, let's say, Texas or Arizona, whose big concerns are water management. Those happens to be the same committee that deal with those two things. And we bring more funds, we appropriate more funds to deal with water management in the Southwest, to deal with infrastructure in the Northeast. Those are the kind of things that, again, focus on priorities rather than philosophical differences. So I think those are the kind of things where we can see the two houses come together, and you can see somebody like Brindisi working across the aisle with both sides.